And we're back. College football week number 16 predictions here on the channel. Before we get into it, hey, who told you so on the Hoosiers? Who said it? Week 1, Hoosiers win the Big Ten. I said it last year too. They were going to win the Big Ten. I was just a year off. I said they're going to be Ohio State. Just 1 year off. But who told you? Sorry, I gotta bask in the glory right now. The Indiana Hoosiers are the best team in college football, the #1 ranked team in the country. And they got to win 3 games to win the national championship game, and they look like they're the favorites to do it. They just beat Ohio State. Fernando Mendoza's going to win the Heisman this week. It's crazy to me. I'm going to go over the full 12-team bracket at the end of the video, so we will have that included, again, at the very end after the predictions today. But crazy stuff, man. I mean, what a win for Indiana on Saturday. Regardless of all that, though, folks, we are going to have only 3 predictions today because there's only 3 games this week in college football. Army-Navy, obviously, huge game. That's on Saturday. Well, all these games are on Saturday. Army-Navy game on Saturday. The bucked-up Los Angeles Bowl and also the Celebration Bowl is being played on Saturday as well. We are going to cover a little bit of the FCS playoffs as well. I'm going to go briefly over the Celebration Bowl and the FCS playoffs, and then we'll get really in depth for the bucked-up LA Bowl, and obviously prior to that, the Army-Navy game. From here on out, guys, and I said this last week, from here on out, we're going to keep doing predictions videos on Monday. So next week, I'll be back again on December 15th, and we're going to go over all the games that week. So that includes the Salute to Veterans Bowl, the Cure Bowl, the 68 Ventures Bowl, Xbox Bowl, Myrtle Beach Bowl, Gasparilla Bowl, all of the first-round playoff matchups we're going to go over next week. So it'll be a much longer video next week with about like 15 games-ish. At 10 games, we're going to go over the famous Idaho Potato Bowl as well. So every Monday at 4 o'clock, I'm going to come on here and do predictions. So again, next week's predictions will include next Monday's games on the 22nd of December, if that makes sense. So every Monday at 4 p.m., we're still doing weekly college football predictions. We're going to go over all that week's action, and we'll just be coming back every single week for this. So again, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you like if you are enjoying the college football predictions as we are now on to bowl season. And shout out to Notre Dame for not participating in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Come on, guys. I mean, I want to watch Notre Dame and BYU. Winner gets to toast a Pop-Tart at the end of the game. And I'd take that. I mean, come on. I would love to watch Indiana in the Pop-Tart Bowl. Maybe not this year, but any other year other than this year, I would have loved it. Anyways, let's get on now to the first of our 3 games this week. First, again, folks, go make sure to check out our college basketball best bets. Those are daily on the channel. NBA best bets, also daily on the channel. On Greedo Plays MMA this week, our UFC Fight Night Royval versus COP predictions, final UFC card of the year on Greedo Plays MMA, and our PFL France predictions, PFL Europe predictions are also on Greedo Plays MMA this week as well. Hanan Fedetta and Vadim Nemkov in the main event for the PFL. Okay, on to the first of our 3 games. We'll start things off with the Celebration Bowl. I'll be honest, I'm not going to spend too much time on this game because I don't watch FCS football throughout the year. So everything I'm saying about this right now is research I've done the last day about the FCS, okay? I don't really keep up that much. I've been keeping up with the FCS playoffs, but obviously the SWAC and the MEAC don't participate in the FCS playoffs. Their conference champions just meet each other in the Celebration Bowl every single year in Atlanta, Georgia. And I believe the first 6 Celebration Bowls were won by the MEAC conference. Obviously, that's the conference with South Carolina State. And so the SWACs, Prairie View A&M, obviously taking them on Saturday. But the SWAC has won the most 2 recent Celebration Bowls after dropping the first 6, if I'm getting that one correct. So this Saturday, again, we get the winners of the MEAC Conference and the South Carolina State Bulldogs, who just won the MEAC championship game against Delaware State, if I'm not mistaken. No, I don't think the MEAC plays a conference championship game. Yeah, they don't. Regardless, we have them versus Prairie View A&M, who just won the SWAC championship game against Jackson State on the road. Now, I don't believe Prairie View A&M is actually the best team in the SWAC. I think that's Alabama State, and Alabama State actually beat Prairie View A&M this year, but the SWAC just still does East and West. So something that probably the conferences now in college football should do still, like the legends and leaders in the Big Ten, probably still make a lot more sense so we don't end up with Duke in the championship game over in the ACC. Anyways, it worked out for the ACC, though. They got their best team, Miami, in the playoffs. Regardless of all that, though, Prairie View A&M loses to Alabama State early in the year. If you've been watching our predictions videos throughout the year, you know I'm actually very high on Alabama State. It's one of the few FCS teams that I have somewhat kept up with because of their starting quarterback and Andrew Bodie. Bodie gets hurt in that game against Prairie View, but the team ends up still winning the football game. Again, Bodie's the guy who had a monstrous performance last year against UAB. We can probably expect him to be playing somewhere at the Division I FBS level next year. Anyways, though, Alabama State beats Prairie View A&M, but the Hornets lose 1 game all year long in the SWAC, and that's to Division rivals Jackson State. And since they have the same SWAC record, Jackson State gets into the SWAC championship game against Prairie View. But Prairie View goes on the road and beats Jackson State and now gets into the Celebration Bowl. So they're taking on South Carolina State, and I think Prairie View is going to win. We get plus money here for Prairie View. I've not seen too many books start offering this. I've just seen this. I'm not going to lie. I've seen 2 lines at 4.5. This might change. These are opening lines too, and I don't even know, again, if these are going to stay at all. But I will take Prairie View. I will. I think the competition factor, I would side with the Prairie View A&M Panthers. Obviously, I think the SWAC's a tougher league than the MEAC. Again, I am not the most well versed in the FCS, but from what I've gotten this year, the SWAC's a better conference. The MEAC, I mean, we know this in college basketball too. It's just not many teams in the MEAC. The MEAC's like a 6-7. I didn't mean to say 6-7. You know what I mean though. Like legitimately, it's like 6 or 7 teams in the MEAC conference. The SWAC's got like 13. They got 12 or 13 in there. So it's a tougher gauntlet to go through the SWAC than it is to go through the MEAC. And Prairie View A&M's way more tested. If you want to compare like FBS opponents, Prairie View A&M went on the road and played Rice, lost by 21 points. SC State did go to South Carolina and lose by 28, but then proceeded to go to USF and lose by 50 points, or 49 points to the South Florida Bulls. But I mean, South Carolina State's on a big winning streak. They have not lost since their FCS loss to Charleston Southern, and they've gone on to then win 6 consecutive games going into this one. Prairie View has won 4 straight after dropping the Alabama State game. They beat Alabama A&M on the road, beat Arkansas Pine Bluff, beat Mississippi Valley State, and then went on the road and beat Jackson State in the championship game by 2 points. Prairie View is led by quarterback Cameron Peters, senior, decent arm from what I've seen, has some questionable decision-making sometimes with the football. I did watch the highlights of Alabama State, Prairie View A&M, and Cameron Peters threw 4 interceptions, so I just want to put that out there. William Atkins is the quarterback. William Atkins IV is the quarterback of South Carolina State. He's a JMU guy. He's a James Madison quarterback who was there during the Cignetti era, at least the end of the Cignetti era. Never got to start at James Madison, went to South Carolina State for his senior year. That's the right thing to do, 100% go play in the FCS. And he had a good year this year. 2,300 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But from how I've evaluated both these teams, I think they're really close. And if we're getting plus money for Prairie View, I think we take it. And I think we're getting, points on Prairie View. I think we take that as well. So I like the 4.5 personally on Prairie View A&M. I think there's a chance they win the game outright. Like, again, I think both these teams are really close. From what I've seen of Prairie View, I think they're a good squad. Offensively, they can explode. I mean, they had 3 straight games where they dropped 48, 59, and 48, 56, and 59 points. And I get it, the teams that they were playing weren't that good in Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley State and Alabama A&M. But that scoring potential, I think, is going to go a long way in this game. And I'm going to go with the Panthers to win. The Panthers have got a couple backs they like to go to as well. Cameron Peters is a dual threat guy too. Chase Benningman, I think that's how you say his name, has been big in the run game all year long for them. And I do think they're going to go out and find a victory against South Carolina State. SC State is primarily a passing squad. Atkins took over the starting job, if I'm not mistaken. Atkins got injured and then retook the starting job when he came back from injury because Ryan Stubblefield, another senior, played 5 games this season, former Incarnate Word quarterback. Yeah, I'm going to go with Prairie View A&M here to cover the points. Not my favorite spot of the week, but again, that's the Celebration Bowl early on in the day on Saturday. So before we get on to the Army-Navy game, let's check out the FCS bracket right now in the FCS playoffs. I know this isn't like completely formatted right. I couldn't find an actual a legitimate landscape horizontal bracket for the FCS playoffs. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel like making a graphic. So this is what we're going to be going with here. The final 4 in the FCS, or the final 8 in the FCS, excuse me, is the Illinois State Redbirds out of the Missouri Valley, the UC Davis Aggies out of the Big Sky, Nova is in the final 8, taking on Tarleton State, and then you get Montana taking on South Dakota, and then SF Austin taking on Montana State. So a lot of these games aren't close spread-wise. I mean, the big story of the FCS last week was that Illinois State went to Fargo and beat North Dakota State. I mean, NDSU legitimately was getting votes for being a top 25 team in the AP poll. An FBS poll, North Dakota State was actually getting votes, which is absurd. And I don't know how serious this talk was, but if you've been paying attention at least over the last day about, all the bowl seeding and whatnot, there was, they were trying to find an opponent for Georgia Southern in the J-Lab Birmingham Bowl. and a bunch of teams turned it down. All of these FBS, all these Power 5 school, Power 4 schools were turning it down. Eventually, App State took it. So, I mean, deeper than hate game is they're going to play again this season. Great. Rivalry game in a bowl game is amazing. We will be seated on December 29th for that football game. However, right, there was discussion, maybe should North Dakota State get a chance to play in the Birmingham Bowl. But that's how good that team was this season. Undefeated NDSU. I mean, obviously, same school that's produced NFL talent at quarterback. They've produced Carson Wentz, Easton Stick, Trey Lance. I'm forgetting, yes, Trey Lance. They've had talent there at NDSU. It's a very good program. Very good players come out of that school in Fargo, North Dakota. And legitimately one of the biggest upsets ever. Illinois State goes there and wins last week by 1 point. They had a big 2-point conversion at the end of the game to win it for the Redbirds. Absurd. That's legitimately like if JMU beats Oregon this week or in 2 weeks. That's how big of an upset it was. Guys, I think UC Davis is actually going to win this game, though, this week against Illinois State. I think it's a great spot. It's the only game that's somewhat playable in the odds in terms of a money line pick. UC Davis is a slight favorite. I think they're minus 115 compared to minus 105 for Illinois State. I actually really like that spot. I think that's a complete cool-down spot for Illinois State. They're going to go to Davis. Games in Davis. It's going to smell like cow shit. So, I mean, Illinois State's going to be thrown off right away. Oh, why are we playing in a place that smells like cow shit? Oh, well, welcome to Davis, California. I'm going to take UCD to win that one. The other games are pretty automatic. I mean, Tarleton State Nova should not be a competition. Nova's had to play Harvard, who the Ivies finally got into the FCS playoffs this year, and then Lehigh. So, I mean, I don't think Nova's that great. They barely got by Lehigh, so Tarleton State should easily handle them. And then Montana, South Dakota. South Dakota just beat up on Mercer. I think the Grizzlies are much better than the Coyotes, and Montana State, who's by far now the favorites to win the entire thing, as they're likely setting up for a interstate matchup next round against Montana. I think the Montana State Bobcats easily handle SF Austin. Don't think that game's going to be close. Lamson's at quarterback, former Stanford product, former Stanford starter last season, and Lamson is now starting at Montana State. I think they handle Stephen F. Austin, and we'll be back next week to break down the Final Four of the FCS playoffs. But I thought it would just be good to go in here and break this all down. As we, have time this week because there's not many games. So anyways, that's what I think. The only real game that's playable betting-wise, I would think, is UC Davis. So watch out for that if you want it. Let's move on now to the Army-Navy game. So we will get back to our bowl schedule at the end of the video, obviously, with the bucked-up LA Bowl. But first, let's go to the Army-Navy game. This is just American history, right? American history. American tradition. This is American history. This personifies America. God bless the United States. Army, Navy, Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, is the location of this one, right? At the link? No, Baltimore, excuse me. In Baltimore, Maryland, M&T Bank Stadium, the Army Black Knights versus the Navy Midshipmen. You would think probably home game for Navy. I don't think so. It's an Army-Navy game. There's really not a home field advantage in one way or the other. Usually, how Army-Navy games go is that they're low-scoring and they're competitive. Now, last year was different, as it was a straight blowout in favor of Navy, and they really went out there and upset Army, a team that, with Blake Horvath last season. Horvath got not MVP votes, Heisman votes, obviously. There was discussion if Army was going to make the college football playoffs, and they were right in that conversation, but obviously didn't get there. And obviously Army ended up in a bowl game. They won their bowl game. Navy did as well, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I don't think Navy made a bowl game. I think they had 5 wins last season. No, they might have gotten in. Regardless, Navy came in there and beat the crap out of Army. Really shocking. Army, I think, was like a 7.5-point favorite, and Navy went out there in Landover and beat the crap out of Army, beat them 31-13. One of the more stacked Army teams that we have seen, one of the more talented Army teams that we have seen. And, recent history has been a lot of Army dominance, right? Dating back to 2016, Army, going into last year at least, from 2016 to 2023, Army had only lost twice. And they played a good Navy team in 2019 and lost. In 2021, Navy won by 4 points. And obviously, historically, this has been a Navy-dominated thing, at least in my lifetime. Navy, legitimately, like, growing up, Navy, Army every single year was Navy winning. Sometimes these games would be close, sometimes they wouldn't, but usually Navy would always come out on top. I know, again, like, a long time ago, Army really dominated this thing, but at least, during my lifetime, again, it has been a lot of Navy dominance. However, recently, again, it has been a lot of Army, but Navy obviously retaking the crown last year. Usually, though, again, with Army-Navy games, they are somewhat low scoring. You know what Army-Navy football games are. Now, I know, again, both these teams have gotten away from the run-heavy bases. I know they still both do that quite a bit, but Army and Navy are getting a little more pass-heavy. Navy definitely is. Army is still very run-oriented. Cale Helms is their starting quarterback. Horvath, obviously, over for Navy. Did I say Horvath was on Army earlier? Bryson Daly. That's bad. I meant to say Bryson Daly. Blake Horvath is obviously the quarterback in Navy. He was the quarterback in Navy last year as well. So if I said Horvath earlier, again, I meant Bryson Daly. Anyways, Blake Horvath and Navy are going to throw the ball a lot more than Army's going to. Eli Heidenreich's been a huge part of that pass game all year long for the midshipmen. Heidenreich's got 805 receiving yards this year for Navy, and he's also got 4 touchdowns in there as well. And the midshipmen have played high-scoring games this season. Obviously, they, I believe, are ranked. They should be ranked. Coming off a big win over Memphis, they beat South Florida a couple weeks ago. Their only 2 losses this year are to North Texas on the road to Drew Mestemaker and company, and then at Notre Dame, they lost by 39 points. And they are getting ready for the Liberty Bowl as well after this Navy Army game. They're going to be playing the Liberty Bowl against Cincinnati. Army's got a bowl game as well, as they got bowl eligible at their victory over UTSA. They're going to be playing in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl against the UConn Huskies. Oh, that's a horrible matchup. Really? They got to play UConn? Oh my goodness, they're going to get destroyed. Army's favored? Oh, well, this transfers out of UConn. Again, we got to go over those coming up. But I mean, interesting. Wow, I did not expect that. We'll see again who's transferring out of UConn. But I don't know. UConn opened as a minus 3.5 point favorite, and the public has pushed that to Army minus 135. And now Army minus 2.5. That's really interesting. I'll need to really look up on what's going on with UConn right now. But again, that's way in the future. Army looked good in their last game against UTSA, right? Heavy run attack. Again, Helms is, the quarterback who's going to run. Noah Short's been around Army for quite a bit, had a big running game against UTSA. And I will say this about the Roadrunners. That's a team that does not lose at home. Right? The Alamo Dome and UTSA, that's a spot where they just don't lose. I mean, Tulane, who's in the playoffs this season, has lost 2 games in the regular season. In Oxford against Ole Miss, who they're playing again. Ooh, go figure. And then in UTSA, or at UTSA in the Alamo Dome, to the Roadrunners and Owen McCown and Robert Henry and company. Army's the first team in years to walk into the Alamo Dome and win. And they won the game by 3 points to get bowl eligible. I don't know if Army would have gotten a bowl game if they didn't beat UTSA. They probably would have, because they would have ended up probably winding up with that game against Georgia Southern. They wouldn't have been an auto bid into a bowl game, but since they're already preparing for the Navy game, I assume they would have got the call and probably accepted to play in the Birmingham Bowl against Georgia Southern, but yet they got the auto bid into a bowl by beating UTSA on the road. Army, again, is not as pass-oriented as Navy is, because, Helms is nowhere near the thrower of the football that Blake Horvath is. Army originally started the year with Dwayne Coleman at quarterback, but it is just Cale Helms' team now, right? Helms is the guy. He's the starter. He's the only quarterback playing currently. Watch out for the Navy pass game, right? Because Blake Horvath had that game. We watched the game against Air Force, and we had Air Force spread that game, and it cashed. Blake Horvath threw for 340 yards in the game this season. He's putting, again, Bryson Daly numbers up right now. 1,000 type year for Horvath. 1,400 pass yards, 1,000 rushing yards. Similar season to Liam Zarka at the Air Force, but just way better. And obviously Zarka, still very young in his career. So I like Navy. They're a good squad. However, in an Army-Navy game, I think Army is able to keep up. I think both these teams are really good, honestly. Army doesn't get blown out. Legitimately, none of the games they play, they get blown out. I know they lost to Tarleton State at the beginning of the season. I understand. Guys, we just talked about the FCS playoffs, and we just said where Tarleton State is. They're probably going to beat Davis in the Final Four, and they're probably going to get to go to Frisco and probably lose to the Montana State, lose to the Bobcats. But again, that's a good team. That is a really good team in Tarleton State that Army lost to in double overtime. They beat Kansas State on the road, who pulled out their bowl game, I think, right? Stupid. They played North Texas, lost the game in overtime by 7 points. I always said this throughout the year. Army had a chance to kick a field goal at the end of the game, like a 40-yarder, and they didn't hit it. But they had a chance to win the game. They kicked a 40-yard field goal to tie the game, 23-yard field goal, but they had a chance to win it. They were on the goal line, essentially, and they didn't convert. And they didn't, obviously, had to kick the field goal and send it to overtime. But they were right there of potentially beating North Texas to open up American League play, and that kind of changes, again, the trajectory of the American Conference from there. So ultimately, what I'm getting to here with Army is that they haven't been blown out this season except for once, and oddly enough, that's against ECU, but Keaton Hauser and that squad had their games this season. We've seen Army play UTSA and win. Tulsa game, they lost, but by 1 point. They beat Air Force on the road in Colorado Springs by 3 points, right? Played Tulane on the road, held them to 24 and only lost the game by 7. Obviously, again, we need them to stay within 6.5 here. I think they're going to. Guys, I've watched Navy play this year. Their offense is great. It's explosive. Horvath is amazing. Eli Heidenreich can do a lot for this Navy team. Alex Tezka is really good, one of their running backs. Woodson as well, Braxton Woodson, who's another one of their back/quarterback, has been very solid this season as well for them. They don't play defense. Their defense is really bad. Yeah, in the Memphis game on Thanksgiving, they held the Tigers, but the Tigers were so, checked out at that point and really not focused in. I'm not going to put much into that. They beat South Florida, gave up 38 points. Beat FAU, gave up 32. Temple game on the road, they won 32-31. Air Force game, 34-31. I don't think this game is going to be that high scoring, obviously, because it's Army-Navy, and you barely ever, I don't know when the last time there was 60-plus combined points in an Army-Navy game. I mean, you probably have to go back years. 2005 was the last time there were 60-plus points scored in the over-under, in the total, obviously, for Army-Navy. The over-under this week is 38.5 for this game. I'd probably side slight over on that, but I wouldn't play it. I think the best bet on this is Army spread. I don't think Navy's able to get away from that much because I think Army's offense is going to be huge. I think Army, again, you know what Army's going to do in comparison to Navy? Navy's going to have those big explosive plays, but Army, chunk plays. 6, 5, 7 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards to carry, 3 yards to carry works for Army. Power running team. We're going to, we're going to run Helms. We're going to run Noah Short. We're going to run, we're going to run Hayden Reed. I think they're going to stay in this football game. Helms can trick you with the passing game. Again, I would trust a lot more in Blake Horvath throwing the football because Heidenreich's been such a weapon this season, but I don't think Navy's able to get away from Army by 7 points. I think it's a competitive one. I think Navy probably wins, but I think the best bet in this game, honestly, is Army Black Knight spread. Recent history, they've been very good against Navy, except for last year, obviously, where they laid an egg. That's a motivation factor. You had Bryson Daly, who's getting Heisman votes. Again, I can't believe early in the video, I think I'm fairly certain I said Blake Horvath was getting Heisman votes. Again, I completely messed up on that. Bryson Daly was getting Heisman votes. One of the best quarterbacks in the country, obviously, last season. And you'll wind up in the Army-Navy game, and you'll get embarrassed when you're ranked 19th in the country, the highest a team had come into Army-Navy in a very long time. Since 1963, it was the highest ranked a team in Army-Navy had come into that game for. So I think Army is going to cover. A lot of motivation. Noah Short senior season. I mean, there's got a lot of returning players in this Army squad. I think they keep it close. They've got great momentum after the UTSA victory. Give me the Army Black Knights to cover here against Navy, who wins probably the midshipmen, but I like the Black Knights to cover 6.5. On to the Bucked Up LA Bowl, as we've got the Washington Huskies versus the Boise State Broncos, the first real official bowl game. Obviously, you had the Celebration Bowls going down earlier in the day on Saturday, but the first actual bowl game here between FBS programs, as again, Washington takes on the Boise State Broncos. There is some history between Boise and Washington as they have played non-con games over the last couple years. I need to pull up the exact scores here, but ultimately, yeah, Washington's got the better of Boise State is what I'm getting to here. 2023, these two teams played in Seattle, and Washington beat Boise 56-19. Or was that game in Boise? Might have been in Boise, actually. It was on the Smurf turf. Washington beat the crap out of Boise. Obviously, that was a team with Michael Penix and Romo Dunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk. But still, Washington historically has beat up on Boise in the recent years. 2023, no, it was in Seattle when they played. 2019 was a neutral site game where it was a bowl game where Washington beat up on Boise, and the last time Boise has beat Washington is back in 2015. But recent history has been a lot of Washington success against the Boise State Broncos, and ultimately, I believe this will be more of the same. Now, here's the thing, guys. As we move on with bowl season, and it's going to be a major part of next week's video, and it's going to be an annoying part of next week's video, we're going to have to check the transfer portal, because as of now, no one's really hit the portal yet. But that's going to start today. I'm recording this video late on Sunday night, and as of now, nobody's hit the portal yet for either Boise State or Washington. We will find that out later in the week. So I am taking, again, all this into account. I still believe the talent Washington has, and there's still going to be a lot of guys coming back to Washington, okay? To my knowledge, Damon Williams is going to play this football game, okay? I don't think Damon Williams is leaving. I think Damon Williams is staying. Why would Damon Williams leave Washington? You're a freshman. You're starting in the Big Ten. There's no reason to leave. So that should be able to bring back a lot of, the other key pieces on this Washington squad. And if they're committing to next season, that means they're committing to this bowl game as well. I think Adam Muhammad, I think he should stay, I mean, Jonah Coleman gets injured. Muhammad's the number one back after Coleman gets injured. He's a sophomore. Why wouldn't you come back to Washington for your junior year? But again, though, that's just college football. You don't know who's entirely returning. But I think still, the personnel Washington should be able to get back with Damon Williams just being a freshman quarterback, being a redshirt freshman quarterback, or I guess they didn't have him redshirt last year. He played 4 games last year. Sophomore quarterback, regardless. I thought he was going to get the redshirt on that year. Still, though, being a quarterback with at least 2 years of eligibility left should bring back a lot of players to come back to your program next season, and guys who are already on the team should be able to commit to this bowl game too, right? There's a reason Washington is a minus 8.5 point favorite against the Mountain West champions in Boise State. So obviously I was wrong with UNLV. It just took the Rebels a 1/4 to get going. And if you're playing on the Smurf turf, and if you're playing in Boise, Idaho, in that environment, especially a dome team like UNLV, you can't take a 1/4 off, and you can't have that 1/4 to get going. So Boise won the game, and UNLV didn't finish all that horribly, but they dug themselves into a 21-0 hole, and the Broncos win. Washington's going to have to contain this ground game out of Boise State, but if they can do that and force Maddox Madsen to beat them, I think Washington's going to be okay. Now, I think Maddox Madsen's going to play this football game. Again, this is the problem with bowl season. I don't think Maddox Madsen's going to leave Boise State. I understand Boise State fans have been, a little frustrated with Madsen over the last, year, obviously because of all the success last season, and I've seen some Boise fans, say, oh, well, he just got carried by Genty last year. Well, maybe. I mean, every quarterback in the country would have been carried by Ashton Genty in all fairness. But I don't think Boise's going to move on from Maddox Madsen. They have no reason to. He's started for, 3 seasons now. This will be his 3rd year coming up next season. There'd be no reason for them to move on from Madsen. He should be their guy. The run game out of Boise should be a major factor. It's a major factor in every game. They've got 3 really good backs. And I expect all of them to play, I think. We'll see what happens to Dylan Riley. Again, I have not seen anything yet about Dylan Riley transferring, and obviously all of the portal moves right now are still just guesses. Like Sam Levitt, isn't really being active at Arizona State currently. We think he's going to leave, and I think he's going to go to Indiana. But we don't know, again, if these guys are actually leaving or not. But since Boise got all their guys to play the Mountain West Championship game, we can't assume most of them are going to come back as well. Okay, that means Dylan Riley should play, even though he should get looks for other programs. Sire Gaines should play, and the senior Malik Sherrod should play as well. So their 3 main backs are going to be back, but still, the talent Washington has, I believe, overtakes what Boise State has at the same time. It's a Big Ten team taking on a Mountain West squad. And let's not forget as well, I'm talking about all this talent from Boise, Madsen, Riley, Sherrod, Gaines. They were a mediocre Mountain West team this season who didn't really even deserve to be in the Mountain West Championship game. It should have been New Mexico and UNLV. Boise State got embarrassed at home against Fresno State, lost to San Diego State on the road, and the pathway to beat Boise's out there. Washington, this is a play for pride game for the Huskies. You do not want to be the first team on the Bull slate, being a Big Ten squad from the Power 4, going and playing a Mountain West school and losing. After all this discussion about how, the G5's not very good. Oh, why is Tulane in the playoffs? Why is James Madison in the playoffs? The Power 4 is superior. Well, obviously they are. You don't want to be that team that starts off bowl season with an L on national TV on a Saturday night on ESPN. You don't want to be that team from the Power 4 that loses and makes the Big Ten and the rest of the Power 4 look bad. Because ultimately, you're playing for the Power 4 here. Power 4 is, looking for more playoff spots next year. I think they want a 16-team playoff likely, and they still want to get rid of the G5 bid, which is horrible, especially if you move to 16. If you really think the G5 team's that bad, okay, let the number 1 seed go play them and go destroy them at home. Like right now, it'd be Indiana destroying Tulane in Bloomington. Okay, let them do that. Anyways, though, Washington is actually playing for quite a bit, and this is another important step for Damon Williams, right? 2024 Washington was in a bowl game. Damon Williams did play against Louisville. Damon played really great. The rest of the team didn't really show up, though. Well, I can't say that. They did a 2-point conversion to win the game at the end, and they lost 35-34, right? Damon brought them back. They were down 14 points, scored 2 touchdowns, 2 huge drives, a 97-yard drive with 3 minutes to go, and then a big touchdown drive at the end of the game to tie or be down 1 point in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. They went for the win, and the Huskies lost. But Damon Williams played tremendously in that bowl game against Louisville. He should play very well against Boise State, and let's not forget again how Boise State struggled prior to their 3-game winning streak to end the year. Yes, they look good against Colorado State, Utah State, and UNLV, but if you load the box on this team, they're not that great. And we saw Fresno do that. We saw San Diego State do that. We saw Notre Dame do that. Washington has the personnel and the bodies up front to stuff this Boise run game. Make Maddox Madsen beat you, who didn't look bad in the UNLV game, but make Madsen beat you. You're playing Boise away from the Smurf turf. We know they're a much better team in Boise on the blue turf. I think Washington should dominate this football team. Ultimately, I expect Washington to win by more than 10 points. I think this is a pretty easy one. As long as everyone we think is going to play for Washington is playing, we should be fine. Even if there are backups playing for UW, they have so much talent on the school. Guys, Washington's recruiting does get unnoticed sometimes. Like, this is a school that does bring in very talented players. And I understand high school star ratings are overrated. 100% I agree. They're overrated just because some website gave you 4 or 5 stars in high school. Ultimately, doesn't really matter. Obviously, there's still elite players who are 5 stars. I understand. Not to knock on the guy. Malachi Nelson was a 5-star and supposed to be the next big thing in college football. Got beat out by Maddox Madsen at Boise State. It's just, sure, I understand. Like, the star thing's overrated, but Washington does have such a deep roster and a talented roster, and they're a Big Ten school, and they play in Seattle. It's a location guys want to play at. So there's a lot of good talent that you just haven't seen yet in Washington, and if most of the guys who I think are going to play, yeah, I really believe that Boise State's going to have trouble running the football. Yeah, Washington was a 6, they were 8-4 this year. Yeah, they're 8-4 team in the Big Ten, but just dominated UCLA, beat them by 30-plus points, beat Purdue by 30-plus points, and sure, does Boise beat those schools? Probably, but Boise's in dogfights, I think, with Purdue and UCLA. I think they are. Washington dismantled those teams. And as long as Damon plays, as long as we get Adam Mohammed going, and there's just enough of a defensive presence to stack the box and force Maddox Madsen to beat them, I think they're going to be fine. I think it's a complete replica of what Washington did against UCLA. Load the box, make Nico Amalaviala beat you, or make Luke Duncan beat you when he came into the game. UCLA couldn't get anything in the run game against Washington. The Huskies should be fine here. I mean, ultimately, same thing against Purdue, too. I mean, they said, okay, Malachi Singleton, go beat us. Ryan Brown, go beat us. Couldn't do it. Guys, Washington stuffed Purdue's best running back, Antonio Harris, to 10 carries for 23 yards. Is Purdue Boise? No. But Washington's been playing teams that have gotten them ready for Boise, and I don't really think Boise scores more than 14 points. And I think, Washington's going to get into the high 20s. So Washington quite easily wins the first bowl game here of the slate, minus 8.5 for the Washington Huskies in the bucked up LA Bowl, formerly the Rob Gronkowski Los Angeles Bowl, now the bucked up LA Bowl. Do I even want to know what bucked up is? Let's see. Bucked up. It is a pre-workout creatine supplement, protein sodas, energy drink, and apparel shop. Okay. Anyone just gets a bowl game now, don't they? Anyways, before we conclude the video, let's look at the college football playoffs. Okay, so I'm not too mad at the bracket. My one gripe with it is Alabama. I don't think Alabama should be in. I actually, this might upset some people. I think it should be BYU. I think it should be BYU. They did the right thing by putting Miami in. We had complained about it every single week. It made no sense. Why play the games if Miami's ranked below Notre Dame? And here, I don't care, whatever. Like, if you don't think BYU should be in, yes, I agree. Notre Dame should be in over Alabama as well. Alabama, guys, lost to a 5-7 football team in week 1. And we want to talk about every single game matters, like Miami and Notre Dame week 1. Well, Alabama, Florida State should matter as well. And Alabama, out of any team in the playoffs, all of them, legitimately, and that includes James Madison, that includes Tulane, the worst loss any team has in the postseason is Alabama. Maybe Tulane versus UTSA. Maybe. But other than that, that is the worst loss any team has in the college football playoffs. Obviously, out of all of the Power 4 schools. They shouldn't be in. They got embarrassed in Georgia against the Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC title game. You punish BYU for losing the Big 12 title game, but Alabama doesn't even move down? Alabama, realistically, they should be 10 if you're going to put them in, but no, they stay exactly where they are. But you punish BYU. I think it's dumb. I'm not too against Notre Dame being out. I'm not going to lie to you, and I've said this before, I think Notre Dame would be the 5th best team in the postseason. Potentially the 4th best team in the postseason. But it's not, we don't put teams in the playoffs because of how good you are. And how well you've been playing, it's based on what you've done in the season. And ultimately, Notre Dame losing to Miami and Texas Tech doesn't warrant them being a playoff team. This is my argument for BYU over them, and I'll say this now. BYU's 2 losses are Texas Tech. And I understand Notre Dame's losses are close. BYU's losses are both in the state of Texas against Texas Tech, who is number 4 in the country and arguably is number 3, in my opinion, in the country. Potentially even number 2. That's one of the best defenses in college football, only behind, I don't know, Indiana, Oklahoma. I would take Texas Tech's defense over Oklahoma's defense. So that's my thing. That's why I think BYU should actually be in. But yes, I agree. It should be Notre Dame over Alabama. But in all fairness, Notre Dame did it to yourself. And I know it's an age-old discussion. Why are you not in the conference? I know there's reasons to this, and I don't want to get into that. Oh, the television deal, network deal with NBC and whatnot. They get so much money for being that. I get it. They do better with not even being in a conference. I understand. But you can't punch your ticket in. If you were in the ACC like you are in basketball, you would have won the ACC, you would have beat Virginia, and it would have been undeniable you would have been in the playoffs. And don't get me started on their whole contract and clause going into next year if we're top 12, we have to get in. Really stupid. But I think they got it right with the exception of Alabama. I would take BYU over Alabama. I think it should be BYU. I think Miami should be 9. They should be going to Oklahoma. And I think BYU should be going to Texas A&M. That's how I think it should be. If not BYU, sure. I'm not against Notre Dame A&M rematch. That would have been perfectly fine with me as well. But Bama being there, in my opinion, is stupid. It's SEC bias. They've got 3 losses, and they have the worst loss in the postseason. So it is what it is. In terms of the G5 teams, I'm not mad at it at all. It's fair. I mean, the ACC did it to themselves. Virginia, what the hell? That sucked. I don't know what that trick play was in the first play of overtime too. Yeah, let's do a double pass. That's a great idea to kick off overtime. They did it to themselves. Enjoy the Belk Bowl, wherever the Virginia Cavaliers are in. Good on Duke. They won the game. They won the ACC championship game. Lucky for them. The ACC got saved in this equation, so the ACC is not going to disband anymore, like I thought potentially was going to happen. But yeah, I'm fine with Tulane and JMU being in. They should be in. They earned this spot to be in. And I think if they're moving to 16 next year, yeah, you keep the G5 bid in. But what they really should do is 24. 24 makes all the sense in the world. And I believe if you're going 24, then you have to go top 6 conference winners. Power 4, Pac-12, and then a G5. That's what should go down, right? They're going to go to 16 first because they're going to expand it one by one, right? They're going to go 16 next season, and then somebody's going to get left out. Or they might go 14 next year. They might do 14, but it should be 16. They should go to 16 next year, and then someone who's really good is going to get left out. Alabama's going to be ranked 15th, and there's going to be, why is Kennesaw State in the playoffs? It should be Alabama. And then the next year, they're going to go to 24. They're going to keep expanding it. The max you can do is 24. 32 would be stupid. You need to go to 24 like the FCS, and then everybody's happy. And then, you can still do your bowl games and whatnot. We can make the Pop-Tart Bowl a quarterfinal game. And that's how you save the college football playoffs going forward. 32 teams is ridiculous. 24 is the right margin, but they're going to go to probably 14 next year. Then they're going to go to 16, and they're going to finally discover, oh, wow, what the FCS has been doing for years actually works, and it's the best playoffs in sports. So just go to 24 teams. You can't if you're number 25 in the country, you can't complain about not making the playoffs. Everybody gets in. We find out who the best team in college football is. If you want to get rid of conference championship games, sure, go do it. Get rid of conference championship games. Do regular season conference champion winners, and that's how you figure things out. That's fine with me. But 24 is the way to go. But I feel like they're going to go 14 next year, then 12, then 14, then 16, then 24 after. But I'm fine with the bracket. I just don't love Bama in there. But hey, I love the Hoosiers spot though. Hey, we get Oklahoma, Alabama winner. We get to prove that we're better than an SEC school, and we get these 2 teams? Sign me up. Sign me up. I'm so ready for Indiana to beat these squads in the Rose Bowl. I want to go to the Rose Bowl. It's like $550, so I don't know if I'm going to be doing that. But go Hoosiers. Shout out Fernando Mendoza. God bless Fernando Mendoza, man. What a guy. Heisman Trophy this season. This week's going to him. But actually, I love the Hoosiers draw. Georgia lucked out, though, because they're going to get either Ole Miss or Tulane. Awesome. Anyways, folks, that'll do it for our college football predictions here for week number 16. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you did disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back again next Monday for week 17, I guess, of our college football predictions. There's a lot of games next week. Again, we have the first round of the college football playoffs. And again, we get these random bowl games as well that I mentioned earlier in the video. And again, remember, every single Monday for the rest of bowl season, we'll be back for college football predictions. And that should, again, that'll take us all the way through, and we'll get to do the playoff games as we go. And yeah, everything scheduling wise should work out by going every single Monday to prepare for each week of college football action. So again, short week this week. I know these videos are usually 4.5 hours long. Last week was only 90 minutes. This is weird. This one's only going 40 minutes. But next week we should be back to like an hour and a half pace with a lot of college football and some exciting stuff going down. So again, this is the appetizer this week to a very loaded bowl slate, our bowl schedule. I mean, the best time of the year. It's Christmas, bowl season. It doesn't get better than this. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to comment if you disagree with any of the picks. And make sure to leave a like as well. Thank y'all for watching. And Mamba forever.